That's how me body say, but girl.
I'm monogamous and I'm monogamous. I'm not polyamorous. To be honest, I fail to see how people can, number one, have the energy to be polyamorous, and number two, how they can remember who it is that they're with at any one time. How do you stop yourself from saying the wrong name at the wrong moment?
What's good, our Rangers? What's popping? Obviously, it has been forever since you've seen my face. If you're only watching as the episodes come, otherwise you should have been seeing my face in the past episodes, you know. Sometimes you just need to go back and watch our old content, you know. But obviously today I am joined by, my name is Jordan, if you don't already know that. But I'm joined today by our special co-host. What's your name again?
I can't remember. I always forget. I'm joking. Hey, our Rangers. As you know, I've been attempting to hold it down while Jordan has been living her best life. But yes, we are back together again, though in the virtual space. But yes, my name is Vera.
Oh, that's your name. Okay, so it's Vera. And today we're also joined by another person. But as you know, on her hour, we do not introduce our guests. They introduce themselves, which is perfect. So I'm going to let this person introduce themselves and tell you what's good, what's popping, what's tea. So yeah, hello.
Hi, Jordan. Hello, Vera. Hello, people. I forgot the name. What you call them? Outriders. Whatever.
Our Rangers.
Outrangers. Good to
Our
meet
Rangers.
Our Rangers. Good to meet you,
Yes.
our Rangers. I'm not sure I have the sass and the pizzazz of my two co-hosts here, but it's such a pleasure to be here on this giving this interview. I was invited last week by Jordan and Vera to do this interview. So my name is Rikki Nathanson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a Zimbabwean, proud Zimbabwean, famous, fierce trans activist, who I'm sure you may or may not have heard. I think I rose to fame after taking the government of Zimbabwe to court, to the High Court, and winning a case, a landmark case for the rights of trans people, not only in Zimbabwe, but across Africa and the world. I mean, that's what I do now. I now work as a senior advisor of a global trans program, advocating for the rights of trans people globally. So that's what I do. I was acquitted after going to court, and being the activist that I am, I decided that it was my right to file a civil suit against the police and the government of Zimbabwe for having violated my constitutional rights. And that is when the harassment began. My cell phone was bugged. Strange cars were following me around town. And on 2 occasions, my home was broken into by security agents. The second time I was home, and needless to say, I was assaulted quite terribly. But then in the December of 2018, I came to New York on business. And while I was here, I got word that they had once again broken into my home. And finding me not there, they went to my office, wanted to know where I was. And when they discovered that I was overseas on business, they demanded to see my itinerary. They wanted to know when I would be coming back home, because they said I was needed for questioning in the president's office, meaning that I was a security risk. That's when I decided to stay in the United States, and that's the reason you see me standing here before you today. I'm from Bulawayo originally, Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, but I now live in the Washington, D.C. area in the United States of America.
Okay, I'm like, flex. Yes, that's what we love. So as you can see, guys, we are in the presence of greatness. We are in the presence of an icon.
A queen, a true queen.
I to be. Honestly, we're sitting in the company of a goddess. So let us all be respectful. Let us take everything that she shares with us with so much gratitude, because this is something that obviously this person is so famous. You are so famous, you're so well known that we usually would have to like, you know, do so much to get an interview like this, but we are so lucky and we're so grateful. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And
Yes.
you're lucky my calendar today wasn't as full as it normally is.
We are so lucky.
Very well.
Genuinely, we really are.
We're also lucky that you responded when we reached out. I think that's like something that a lot of people just like, you know, we saw your story, and I was just like, I don't know, like, I'm just gonna try on Facebook. Like, I would never respond to a Facebook message, but like you respond, I was like, oh my God, I was like, Jordan, she responded. So that was just amazing.
Yeah, so the thing is, you know, I'm a firm believer in no matter how well known I am or how famous I think I may or may not be, the work that I do is important. So every voice counts, regardless of who you are. And if I have the time to be able to speak to somebody or make an appearance or whatever it is I do, if I have time to read an article or do an op-ed or contribute to anything that's going, like, say, to a submission to the United Nations is something I do because I feel that, you know, I'm here for a purpose, and I need to make sure that I see to that.
Period. That's exactly what it is. I feel like that's something we all need to live by. There's not enough good that we can contribute to the society that we live in. And I think you've done your fair share, but it's good that you're continuing to go beyond that. I wanted to ask you just a small little question before we jump into like, oh, what is going on? Before we jump, sorry, I got a phone call. Before we jump into the more serious questions, what has it been like having so many people know who you are? Like, what does it feel like? What is it, you know, like, what is that like?
I don't know. It's a bit surreal, you know, if I think of what my life was like pre 2015. I was just like a normal person trying to forge my way in life in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, with my little modeling agency and my finance company, and I wasn't doing too badly. I mean, I produced quite a few Miss Zimbabwe's and that. But then fast forward to like 6-7 years later, and I'm invited to all these high level things. I've been invited to the White House, like in the White House, with the President and the First Lady of the United States, and United Nations. I spoke on a panel recently with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands and all these people. So it really is, when I think to myself, you know, if this little girl from Zimbabwe, who was born in Gwanda, by the way, a little cow town in the south of Zimbabwe, this little girl from Gwanda, Zimbabwe, who grew up and literally was raised in Bulawayo, and sitting where I am now, it's very hard to believe. But to go back to your question, it's, I don't know, I just take it as it comes. I don't have diva moments and diva, no, mind you, I do have one or two diva moments and diva tantrums. I think we all do. But I don't let that like overtake who I am. I still am the same person I always was. As outspoken as I am, and I've always been outspoken, I've always spoken my mind, I've always stood my ground, I still am very humble, and that's something I don't like to lose. I don't want to lose that aspect of me, because I think many people, when they become well known, tend to forget who they are and where they came from. That's something I don't want to forget. Although I never foresee myself ever living in Zimbabwe again, having gone through what I did. But certainly, I never deny the fact that Zimbabwe is my roots. That's you know, that's who I am.
Great. Do you miss it? Do you miss them? That's
sorry, I didn't catch that.
No, it's okay.
I miss certain parts, certain aspects. I miss the people in Zimbabwe, obviously. I don't miss the power cuts and the no water and the inflation and all those negative things. But certainly I mean, the home is home, right? I mean, the food is amazing. No matter where you are, it's never the same. So I miss that aspect. I miss like my friends. I have some really good friends and was there. I miss the life that I had in Zimbabwe. It was less strenuous. It was less of a rat race, pardon me, where things were just, they happened when they happened, if they could happen. Pardon me, yeah, everything is like scheduled. Everything happens on time, and everything is like by the book. You know what I mean? So I miss that sort of like not laissez-faire, but more relaxed lifestyle in Zimbabwe. Pardon me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. I also miss of all the things the past 5 months is that I miss the people and the vibes, like there's nowhere like Zimbabwe, there's nowhere like home.
And
So
the meat in Zimbabwe. I tell you, there is nowhere like Zimbabwe meat ever.
Yeah. I miss salsa, guys. I can't wait to get home and eat salsa and pork bones. I'm so excited. You have no idea. I'm going, like it's gonna go down. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, do you have a question for us, Vera?
Yes, I think just maybe for the benefit of all of our viewers that don't read, I'm joking, no offense, anyone, but like just for the benefit of everyone, if you don't mind sharing what happened, I think it was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, the court case that you won, just sharing that story. Because I know when I looked it up online, I think there were 2 articles that were up about it. I think the one article you actually commented and you said, excuse me, please make some edits because people obviously made their own assumptions about certain things. But maybe if you could just share it, especially from your perspective, I think it would be really interesting for people to just have like a brief summary of like what happened that night, and then all the way to the progression of you actually deciding to take it to court. Because for me, that's where I'm just like, I would have just let it go and be like, you know what, I'm out, I'm leaving this country. But you literally fought the good fight. So yeah, I think that's just where my question is. It's just for you to share a little bit on that.
But nothing that's like too much for you, or it's like whatever.
I'll be very brief. It'll be a very brief summary because I normally when I talk about this, it's like a whole 45 minutes. But anyway, so backtrack to 2014 is when it actually happened.
Right.
When I was arrested for using, actually not even using, I was arrested and the charge was that I had used a female restroom at one of the hotels in Bulawayo. I was picked up very humiliatingly by 6 police officers in riot gear, complete with rifles and everything. Taken to the police station. I was treated like, I don't know, like a real criminal. Made to sit on the floor, took off my shoes, all the works of it. And I had journalists like taking photos. Because then, I mean, I ran a modeling agency. I was well known in the city, right? Everybody knew who I was. And journalists taking photographs back and forth. Anyway, so that all happened. I was taken to a side room. I was stripped naked in front of 5 police officers, male police officers. I was humiliated, something terribly. I spent 3 days and 2 nights in the holding cells at Bulawayo Central Police Station. Completely dark cell, no lights at all. I couldn't see my hand in front of me. Dirty blanket full of lice. It was terrible. I was forced to undergo 2 gender verification examinations at 2 of the public hospitals. They both came back with the diagnosis that I was transgender. And that worked in my favor because I was diagnosed as being transgender by a authority in the medical field. I was placed in my own cell, so I didn't have to share it with anybody else. So imagine if I had to share a cell with like 25 men, what might have happened to me. Anyway, that's something that I'm thankful for today. To cut a long story short, we went to court this Saturday. That happened the Thursday night, the Saturday morning. I was acquitted because the the junior prosecutor on duty couldn't argue the case because she didn't know anything about transgender. That's what she said. It was remanded to a week later. But after that initial remand, the guy that instigated my arrest, he was then the area chairperson of the ZANU PF Youth League or something. He was a political somebody. And so he was so angry. He threatened the police, he threatened the prosecutor, and he threatened me. And he said, and he literally said, I cannot guarantee this person's life if this person's allowed to leave this court today. So with that, I was shunted off to a safe house for a week, and then I appeared in court again. And when I appeared in court, my case was acquitted because the charge that was brought against me just doesn't exist. In the criminal nuisance, in the schedule of 50 or 5, I don't know how many cases there are of things that are deemed to be criminal nuisance or can be classed as criminal nuisance, none of them is going to the toilet, right? So I was acquitted. So with that, I stewed for a few months. That happened in February, March. So August was the cutoff date for me to have any recourse, and I knew this because I'm trained in law. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Secretary. So the majority of our coursework is law, is legal work, right? So I knew that all these things have a limitation to time. So I said, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sue these people for what they put me through. I mean, I think I had a list the length of my arm, but then my lawyer said, no, let's keep it really brief. Yeah. So I sued them for I can't remember, but it was emotional distress and psychological something, and defamation, and they had contravened my right to liberty and expression. There were a lot of things I sued them for. And so anyway, those papers were filed in August 2014. Fast forward to 2017, we finally went to court, to the High Court. Now, this is the case that you're talking about. This is not. So there's 200
years later.
Yeah, there's I know, right? So I've won 2 cases, not just one, actually.
Nice. That's
amazing. And that court case, initially my lawyer said, it won't be it'll be a small, it'll be like a morning. That case dragged on for 3 days, right?
Oh my
God. So I was on the stand for the whole of the first day. The second day we had, there was a psychologist that we had to go and see after my ordeal because I was so traumatized. He was in Harare. So we flew him down to come and testify. And then we also had, then the police came to testify on the last day, but they really didn't do much. And then we waited. That was 2017. 2019, the judgment was handed down, and the ruling was in my favor. That basically trans people have as much rights as anybody in Zimbabwe. And it also I know that the judge was so amazing. He also said that the country needs to relook at laws, especially around bathrooms and things, that genderize things. So there's some things you just live and let live. So I won the court case. But with that said, that put me in danger. I was stalked. I was threatened. It was crazy. So that's why when I came to the States in 2018. To do advocacy week that I'm doing now next week at the United Nations. Again, there were whisperings back home that I was being looked for by the Secret Service and things. I didn't go back to
right.
Zimbabwe, and I stayed. I filed for asylum because I decided not to go back on the 9th of December. I waited till after Christmas to file for asylum on the 27th. By the 6th of February, it was granted. Less than 6 weeks' time, I was given asylum. I was able to work within a month. So literally, and then I got my green card last year. So it's really been it's been an ordeal. Good
It's been the last part of it has been a bit blessed. I think you like
Yeah.
it's such a blessing that you were able to get the asylum so quickly because honestly, yeah, it's not usually so easy, but I'm so glad that for you, after everything that you went through, that's the least that they could have done, to like lessen the
Yeah,
blow.
and I think also because my case was so well known. So when I went for the interview,
Right.
what happens is you put an application, you have to go in for an actual face-to-face interview with one of the immigration officials. So first she said to me, she said, before you sit down, I must tell you, I am so honored to be the one to interview you. So they did their homework, obviously. So they knew what was going on, they knew who I was. And so I think even though it sounds like it was easy, that was a very difficult interview. There was like 3 hours
For
long.
sure, for sure.
3 to 4 hours long, because they went through detail by detail by detail of my life in Zimbabwe. So it really was, yeah, but thankfully I'm sitting here today.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, oh my God.
amazing.
It is amazing, right? I just have I have a question based on the whole conversation. So obviously there is this narrative in Zimbabwe where people usually say like if you are a Zimbabwean and you're part of the LGBTQI plus community, or if you're trans, then you should just go to another country and seek asylum. It's kind of like people are kind of telling people just leave, just leave, just leave. And for me personally, I kind of don't have that desire because obviously you can't go back home once you seek asylum, And so for me, I kind of want to ask you, like, what would you say to people who have this kind of mindset where it's like queer people in Zimbabwe should seek asylum and just leave,
I would say that's rubbish. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's where the people belong, right? That's where they were born. They are citizens of the country or whatever, Zimbabwe, wherever they are. And I think I really do not, I do not condone authorities trying to dictate where people should or should not live. That number one is a strict contravention of one's right to choose, right? And your right to existence and your right to living in a place free of oppression and all these sort of things. So that shouldn't be. I mean, I would tell those people really that they need to go back, look at themselves, read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, read the own Constitution of Zimbabwe that says everyone has the right to live in that country before they make such statements, and ask them would they like to leave to go live somewhere else if they feel they're not happy living with somebody who seemed to be LGBTIQ. Really, that makes me angry.
Right, me too. Right.
No, that's so true. I think a lot of times people just make an assumption. And I think I even when Jordan left earlier this year, I was like, don't come back. Like Zimbabwe doesn't deserve you. But like also like just hearing it from that context that like also it's just like it must be a horrible thing to hear people say because you're like, I want to actually be home. I want to make things work. And I think it's just it's doubly as painful when you are like a queer person or a person from the LGBTQA plus community, because not only is Zimbabwe a struggle for everyone else, and it's twice as hard because you belong to this community, and then there's so many oppressive laws, and even in spaces where you feel safe, there are times when you aren't really feeling safe. Everything is just like you have to work twice as hard every time just because of your sexual orientation or whatever. And like that for me, it's such a wild thing that it's still a problem that we're having in Zimbabwe. I always say to people, I'm like, so we literally have laws that are concerned about what people do in their bedroom, because that's, if we want to break it down to like an essential thing, like that's what it just comes down to, what people look like, what people act like that's what we're really like. We have murderers and rapists walking around in our streets, but we want to concern ourselves with
getting the money and
exactly, and like
selling the money and shooting people to get those diamonds. It's no one saying anything about it, really. I mean, we need to be honest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's just so much else that's wrong with the country that needs to be fixed. And this is really one of the least of the things. And this is not even a problem because this is people's right to be.
Yeah.
So it's not even a problem it's a problem that doesn't exist, that's been made to exist by people that are actually the ones that need to be checking themselves as to whether they should be living in Zimbabwe, whether they should be afraid of being locked up tomorrow or whatever.
To me, it's so crazy because these same people who are making the laws or being part of the processes are the same ones who are in the DMs of all the girls, you know? So like, what do you mean? You know, like, it doesn't make sense to me. How are you?
My case.
Literally, like, how are you out here, you know, enjoying, benefiting from our community in more ways than one, but you create no space for people like yourself and the people who you sleep with, you know? So yeah, I don't know. For me, that's just, I think, a little bit interesting. I don't know if you had another question, Vera.
I did. I wanted to ask, I feel like your court case, like, and also now just hearing like how it was spread out over like literally almost 5 years is just wild to me. But do you feel like your court case was kind of like a missed opportunity for like Zimbabwean legislation to kind of like change laws, or do you think like it was a step in the right direction? Because I think with a lot of countries, like there's certain court cases that then set a precedent for other people who come with similar situations that then get like the same kind of opportunities, and then like in a long-term kind of situation then it can be something that's turned into new legislation and things like that. So do you feel like your court case was like it was a win for Zimbabwe and we're moving in the right direction, or it was kind of like a lost opportunity? Like, it was great, we spoke about it, yay, and then like wah, wah.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you're asking that question, because I was in South Africa 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was there for so I'm doing a project. I work with Outright Action International, by the way, and I have a home trans program, and we have a project in Southern Africa, pardon me, working with Gender Dynamics and 15 other organizations in the region of Southern Africa. And in this meeting was TREAT, the organization I started in Zimbabwe, right? So we had this discussion around missed opportunities. And so we're looking at how best we can advance legal gender recognition in the region of Southern Africa and what strategies we can use, right? So cut a long story short, so we're doing research in the region. We're looking at across 8 countries. And that research will be used to advocate for legal gender recognition. I said, so what about my case? Hello, I'm sitting right here. We have a case in Zimbabwe where the judge said that trans people need to recognize as citizens of the country. So that itself is a precedent, right? So why is no one doing anything about it? So yes, I do believe that. So it was a leap in the right direction, because now it's on the books, right? That we exist and we need to be afforded the rights as every other citizen of the country. So that's in the right direction. But the missed opportunity is that people haven't used it for that sole purpose. And this is something that I'm pursuing. I can't do much because I'm not living in the country, but I'm, from where I am, I'm doing like the work I'm doing currently. It will push for that to happen in the region. But certainly by now, I mean, almost 3 years after the judgment, there's been like no momentum around the case. I mean, I speak about it. I mean, I get asked about it all the time. I was talking about it in South Asia the other day. They're using my case in South Asia. So what's happening on my own back porch? So yes, I do believe it was a missed opportunity, but it certainly was not done in vain, because it's there, it exists. I think the action I took has really helped to better the lives of trans people globally, not only in Zimbabwe.
1000%. I feel like for me personally, I would not be able to exist in the ways that I do in Zim. Even in like some of the work that I've done in media in Zim, it's definitely because of you, the kind of work that you've done, and the precedents that you've set, you know, for people like ourselves in Zimbabwe, you know. And I genuinely have to say that I'm so grateful that you have lived the life that you've lived and been able to do the things that you've done, because it has made life for me personally easier. And I owe so much of the life that I've been able to live to you, and the work that you've done for other girls like me in Zimbabwe. And you've also inspired me genuinely and honestly, because I feel like we kind of don't have a choice but to be activists, especially where we come from and the way that things are set up in our country, you know. When you're known and you're out and proud, you kind of don't have a choice but to advocate for your own rights, because of the way that things are in Zim. But I just wanted to ask you, do you think that there is genuinely a foreseeable future for LGBTQI plus rights in Zim? Do you think that's something that will be a thing in our generation?
Certainly, I'm hopeful. I'm
Mhm.
hopeful. And I tell you why I'm saying that is because speaking to people and looking at trends of what's happening, like even in the region, for example, the wins that we had in Botswana, the wins that we had like even though Cape Verde is far from Zimbabwe, the wins that we're having around trans rights in Botswana, my case in Zimbabwe, there are incidents in Lesotho, in Eswatini. So I think with enough push and enough momentum, and the push has to come from the activists themselves, and this is the conversation I was having when I was in South Africa. With enough push and momentum, yes, it can happen. So, like I said, the project we're doing now is looking at advancing the legal gender recognition of trans people across the 8 countries. If we get 4 of the countries in the next 5 years, that's a win, right? And if we get the remaining 4 in another 10 to 15 years, it's another win. But certainly, I would say, speaking from a trans perspective, that it's possible. It is possible. Speaking from the bigger LG conversation, that's sexual orientation. That's a bit difficult because now we need to now butt heads with cultural practices and religious fundamentalism and all those things that say it's so wrong for people to be in same-sex relationships. But certainly for gender identity, from a gender identity perspective, I don't see why we cannot advocate that we are fighting for the rights of people's existence as human beings, not for them to sleep with Joe, Mary, or Sally, but for them to live a life where they walk to the combi and they're not hurled insults. Children don't throw stones at them. They go to a clinic and they're able to see a doctor who knows how to treat them, who can give them one hormone. You know what I'm saying? If those are things we're fighting for, we're not fighting to say who can sleep with who. We're fighting for when I travel through the airport, I'm not pulled aside by airport security because my passport is saying, hey, I'm a male, but I'm looking like a female and I'm strip searched. You know what I'm saying? It's those things that we're fighting for. And the same sex thing, and I don't feel qualified enough to speak for the bigger LGB community and the community, but I can certainly speak for the trans folks. That's my I live and breathe trans work. So but yeah, the others, that's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Okay.
I hear you. Yeah, I think it's such a crazy big, it's like a mountain that we have to kind of like overcome. But I think like what you're saying is that baby steps, and I think just getting to the point where, you know, trans people just accept. So I think that's really a great step in the right direction. And I think once people can acknowledge that and acknowledge the trans community, and like what you're saying, the whole airport thing. I remember when I first heard about a story of a trans woman who was stopped at the airport and told that she could not come into Zimbabwe until she presented like what's on her passport. And I'm like, but if it's the same person, why do you care what the person looks like?
I was stopped at least 3 times leaving Bulawayo. and they knew who I was. I mean, who didn't know us? I'm not God. I was in court for God, in and out of court. So they knew I was. And I think for me it was mainly an intimidation thing where they were trying to, put pressure on me. But the one time they said to me, okay, fine, but your male, your passport says you're male, but you're a female. So we need to verify that your breasts are real. This is what this man is telling me. So I said, okay, fine, you can certainly, but not you. I said, I want a woman to have a look at my breasts.
We can come and touch them.
So
Okay.
So I was taken to the bathroom, and but luckily the female security officer was my friend, because I had to fly every week. I was going through the airport, so she just can see. So we sat in there for like 10 minutes, and she said, "Oh, no, everything's fine." But this is what I'm saying. Now, if I imagine if I didn't have an experience that was not so, that was more traumatic, for example. Imagine if this man had pulled me to the side and had ripped off my clothes and you know. So it's the trauma, it's the invasion of privacy, it's the possibly missing a flight, and the losing of the ticket, and all those things, and just for the mere fact that you have an identity document that doesn't reflect what you look like. Right. It's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
It's terrible. And it's those things, it's simple things like that. I mean, and when you advocate, and this is something that I tell trans folks, is let's not talk the same sex things, because that's a non-starter. Let's talk from a human rights angle. I want to be able to go and walk into a bank and open a bank account and have no questions asked, right? I want to be able to catch a plane without harassment at the airport. I want to be able to go see a doctor who knows how to treat me, and those are basic human rights, folks. Basic human rights. It's not rocket science. It's basic human rights.
And this is something we've spoken about. So if you are a regular subscriber who's watching this video, then you definitely know that this is a conversation that we've had before. We're not new to this, in this realm, at least on Her Hour, we speak about this all the time. This is something we've spoken about, so it's not like this is any new information. I feel like if you haven't already heard this kind of conversation before, then you need to also go back and watch our previous episodes, because these are things that we've been discussing. And I just personally think that, to a certain extent, it's kind of crazy to me that this is the kind of world that we live in. A lot of the days I wake up and it's hard for me to grasp the fact that I still have to deal with so many things in this world, like not being able to get a driver's license, or not being being able to open a bank account. Those are such weird things to me. Like, it's so weird to me.
And that's your basic rights that you need. Those things, right? How are you going to drive a car?
Yeah,
literally. And now being in Europe, I'm like, it's been so good. The public transport has been so good. I'm like, now I have to think about Zimbabwe again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so annoying that this is the country that we live in. I just wish things were so much more different than they are. But I think obviously we're all working towards making it different, making it better. I think this is also a conversation that helps to kind of shape narratives and add perspective to the conversation, which I think is important. I don't know if we have a question on your side, Vera.
Yeah, I just have one question. And I think this is just a really important conversation that I don't know if we can arrange one day for like all of the activists in Zimbabwe to just have like a mini masterclass with you or something. But I think especially in terms of like advocacy, what advice would you give like young activists in Zimbabwe? Like what kind of movements can they start making? I think you're also very much aware of like these new laws and bills that are trying to be passed that are just like, every time we take a step forward, like your case was great, we took a step forward, and then like, there are 20 new laws that come in that take us like 50 steps back. So what kind of like advice would you give to activists or people who are trying to advocate for changes in Zimbabwe?
That is such a difficult question. Thank you for asking it. I would say, but it's a great question though. I would say, so advice, especially in light of what's happening in Zimbabwe, I'm very, very well aware of the PVO acts and all those things that the government is using now to try and silence civil society, which is it's criminal because civil society actually are watchdogs of the citizens. That's who protects the citizens against unfair legal practices and um, um, corruption and all those sort of things. But the advice I would give them is if you are tenacious and if you speak your truth and you stand your ground, unless they kill you, nobody can nobody I mean you'll win in the end because the truth always wins, right? So I mean look at me. I was a prime example. I mean I stood my ground. This is who I am, and these and I know I have these rights as a human being, as a citizen, and I want them. And I got them. It was a long, hard struggle. And thankfully, I pray to the universe every day that I'm still alive to tell the tale because I could not be here today, knowing the situation, the country that we live in. But, and also allyship. If you can find people to be allies with and who can support you, because there's nothing like support. You can't do it all by yourself. So look for like-minded people who may or may not even be part of the same sector or movement as you are, but anybody who can help you, who can help amplify your voice, who can help elevate your cause, then that really is it. But stand your ground, make a case, and in the end, the truth always wins. Although it's a bit difficult now. I'm just thinking now, my brain is working overtime. I'm thinking about this new bill and what it sets out to do. So you need to think really cleverly and really smartly as how you can go around it. And I don't have the answer on this call, but there has to be a way around it. I mean, people have gotten around found a way around a lot of issues in the past. And I'm thinking of the times when there was the whole financial crisis in Zimbabwe and banks seizing foreign currency and and people cleverly managed to open bank accounts in other places, and they managed, what I'm saying? So you need to think as an activist, that's what you got to do, that's what you have to do, right? I mean, if you think of the days when activists in countries like in Europe, where they had the underground printing, they were printing newspapers underground and smuggling to people, and that actually helped them emancipate themselves. So you have to think really smart. And we're going back to those days now where we have to become very creative around how we do the work that we do, especially in situations where the government seems to be so, or the system seems to be so oppressive.
Yeah. That's so true. I think I love that, like just talking about like just finding creative ways to navigate around certain things, because I think sometimes we just get so boggled down and like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? And we start to like lose hope. But I love that statement that people say Zimbabweans always make a plan, and that's so true. We survive through anything, and like there's always a way. There's always a way. And yeah, I think that in itself is really great advice. I know that there's so many organizations still actively trying to fight the PVO bill, but I also think that in the same breath, us just thinking very creatively of how can we navigate around it and still get the message across and still get people to think differently, especially now that we're getting into the time of elections and things like that, that we need to really just be a lot wiser about some of the decisions we make, because that's really affecting not only us, but like the future generation. And like, we just need to be honest about the kind of Zimbabwe we want our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and our nephews and, our family to grow up in.
Right. So yeah, I think this is bringing us towards the end of our conversation, obviously. But I think before, I think it's very important for us to kind of not decenter, but like move the conversation away from activism a little bit, because I think something that I hate is in our community or among trans people, the people who watch trans people or the outside world sometimes don't see the human aspects of the people that, you know, do some of this work. And so for me, I think it's very important for us to kind of humanize you and, you know, get to know some of the aspects of you that are very, very human. But before we go into that, I just want to open the floor to you and give you an opportunity to possibly share some advice with the younger generation, like the ones who are still very, very young, the little babies, you know, who are still figuring things out, and who are interested in you know, your work or all the things that you've done, you know. I don't know if you have any words.
Yeah, I think I slightly alluded to it earlier on when when I asked the question about what activists need to do, and I think the same would go for all young and upcoming people. It's difficult, yes, I know, especially if you're living in a situation where you're not living on your own. You have a guardian or a parent or a sibling or somebody who's over and above you, who's looking after you and calling the shots, and you're eating their food and sleeping under their roof, and you have all these rules and regulations that you need to stick by. But certainly I would say just think positively. I mean, it's hard, and I know it sounds very, very blasé for me to say this, but it's very difficult. But think positive, I mean, because one day you'll get out of it, right? And I'm a firm believer in manifesting things and believing that you can and you'll do it. I mean, look at where I am today. When I was 12 years old, I said, I'll be living in the United States of America. I didn't know I was going to get that. And yeah, I'm almost a citizen of the USA. You know what I mean? I didn't know I was going to have to get arrested and all these things, but it just sort of happened, right? So you need to, and you need to have a positive in your mind. This is my future I see for myself. No matter how bleak and how dark the days actually are, just believe that that day will actually come. It actually will come. And surround yourself with positivity, positive people, good support system, good friends that are there to encourage you. Try not to read negative things like the news and just ignore all that, because that I find tends to dampen my spirits. So I like to be very upbeat and think the best of every situation all the time.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And if you felt that, please leave some, is there a clapping emoji? Clapping emoji.
There is.
Clicking. I realized there's no clicking. That's how I was like quickly change, But I think let's get to the part where, we kind of hear some things that are human about you.
Doesn't even rhyme. Hey, why would she have to call the police?
And for me, I definitely want to know, like, what kind of food do you like? Like, what are you into? Like, what do you like eating? I'm such a foodie. I love food. So
actually, no, I do love food. I love good food as well. But because I'm of my ethnic background, I'm big into Indian food, and I cook Indian food all the time. And I find that's my go-to food. If I need to cook something, for number one, it's easy for me. I don't have to look up the recipe, and I know how to make it well, and it's tasty, and it always tastes good, and it's nutritious. It's not as, but I also, I like Chinese food. But what I do miss from Zimbabwe is a good sadza, a good piece of T-bone steak, nicely grilled or fried, whatever, with tomato and onion gravy, and I like also like the nice, like the choms, the chomolia, or it's called chomolia. Yeah, chomolia.
Yeah.
That's like today's cold outside and it's raining, so that would be like really good for me today. Yeah, but I said that's what I like.
I'm stressed.
I don't, and what I don't like is I don't like all this American fast food. I don't like the pizzas and the hamburgers and that's why I haven't been weight since I've been here. I'm still, I'm healthy because I
I hear you. I hear
not to
you.
eat those things. And I cook at home, I think 6 days out of 7. So and it's
Okay.
food that I like and that I cook and that it's all natural. I have a butchery that sells natural organic meat that's not
Oh,
GMO
nice.
stuff. And I get my other stuff from it's an Indian place. So I get all my stuff from them. So yeah.
And then if you had one last meal, like your last meal on death row vibes, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a tough question. I don't know though. Something that would really make me feel a lamb biryani. I love it.
Oh my God.
I had some of that yesterday. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Um, yeah.
I haven't eaten dinner, so everything is just making me so hungry.
I also like a nice roast chicken and roast potatoes. Yeah.
Oh,
I get
yeah,
back home.
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vera, what would if it was your last meal on earth, what would it be?
I'm such a typical person. It would definitely be ribs. Like I would need to
Pork or beef?
go out on ribs. But like
Pork
it
or
would be
beef?
such a weird meal. It would be such a weird meal because it would be like spare ribs, like with a really good sauce on them, and then I'd want like spinach because I'm such a fan of spinach, and like I would want it like in a white sauce, and then like for my starch, I would probably go with potatoes, but probably not fries because I feel like a lot of times fries go really wrong. So I'd probably go for like roast potato and like with the skin that when you like cut it and then you put the butter in, like I would go out on a kind of
potato.
unhealthy. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be mine.
That's
And you,
delicious.
Jordan?
Oh my gosh, for me, oh my gosh, it has to be like buffet style. I need
Everything.
at least a waffle and ice cream that's just on the side. I might not eat it, I might, just so that it's there, with a little bit of a Nutella kind of drizzle. I also oh my God, oh my gosh, so many things. I need a butter chicken and a garlic naan. Oh my God, yes. And then on the other side, I need like roti and like a mince, like a curried mince. Yes.
You must come visit me. You will eat all those things by my house.
Yes, I definitely. We're gonna be in Washington. Did you say you stay in DC?
Yeah.
We're gonna be in DC next year, in February. So we need to,
Yeah, hopefully, because I'm in Mexico the last week of the 28th of Feb to like the first week of March, but I'm back again. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So me, those are those things, and maybe like a fried chicken, like a KFC, just a two-piece, a thigh and a drum, or if not, two thighs. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I don't know.
Well, you can eat.
They would have to kill me.
Yes.
They would have to kill me
So
because
much food.
I probably won't eat all of it, but I probably won't because I'm hungry.
But yes, no, that sounds like a good meal. I think my last question is, okay, you're having a really bad day. What are you listening to or reading or watching?
Yes.
So I'm listening at the moment. I'm listening to Beyonce's Renaissance album, which tends to put me in a mood when I'm tired. So that's my
Yes.
weekend in the car. It plays full blast.
Yes.
And my favorite one is the can I say the word the cup?
Yes.
Yes.
That's my favorite one. And what I'm listening to, what am I watching on TV? Probably watching an episode of the Masked Singer that I missed because I really like that show. And then what else was the other question?
What are you reading?
Reading. So I currently am reading How to Make Friends and Influence People. That's what I'm reading at the moment by Daniel Carnegie.
Do you struggle to make friends?
No, but I'm trying to make more.
You have a lot of friends. I'm like, where are you struggling to make friends?
Yeah, but I'm struggling. I'm now to make influential friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So not just any random person. I want to consciously target people that will want to be my friend.
Right.
Yes. And be your friend for the right reason, because I think that's also another thing.
Yeah. And mainly to like to advance myself, like my own self-worth, not for any other reason.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, last one. I'm so curious. Last one. From me, last one. Are you someone who, first of all, are you married or are you single? And if you're single, are you interested in marriage? And if you're married, are you, oh my gosh, you don't have to answer this because I know that there's like stigma, but are you monogamous or are you polyamorous?
I'll answer all of them. So I'm not married, but I'm not single. I'm in a relationship. That's how I wear this ring. It's not a wedding ring, it's a commitment ring, like a promise ring type thing. And yes, he's male. He's African American.
Yes.
I'm monogamous. I'm monogamous. I'm not polyamorous. To be honest, I fail to see how people can, number one, have the energy to be polyamorous, and number two, how they can remember who it is that they're with at any one time. How do you stop yourself from saying the wrong name at the wrong moment? You know what I mean? I have nothing against it whatsoever.
For sure.
Speaking for myself, I just and I honestly I bow down to people who are polyamorous because I'm there, managed to have a wonderful time, and but still, to me, it'll be too much hard work for me because I tend to get very involved with everything I do, be it work, be it relationships, be it people. So I don't have enough energy to give it to all those people.
Okay, and then you missed out a small little detail. Just for me, please humor me. Are you interested in marriage? Is that something that you believe in?
Yes, I am. I am interested in marriage. I am, and hopefully that this ring will lead to that. I am, yeah. And I know many people say that the institution of marriage is old-fashioned, but I just feel that that's just like cements the commitment. I mean, that just seals the deal, so to speak. And yeah, so I don't know, like, and again, I'll be very candid. We haven't spoken about marriage, but we certainly have been speaking about like buying a house together and those sort of things. I think that's sort of like will come down the line. But yeah, hopefully one day I want the whole white dress and the bridesmaids and
yes.
I want to make a beautiful bride.
You'd make a stunning bride. You'd actually make a stunning bride. I want this for you so I can also see the pictures.
That's why I'm asking. I'm like, you look at you sitting over there. You're looking too good to be single. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Just there's no way.
There's no way.
So, it's hard. Like I can be sitting in the States, but it's difficult to find somebody. Okay, yes, it's. I'll tell you why it's difficult. It's because it's easy to find somebody just to do whatever you do with, right? But to find somebody that you connect with, that complements you, that you can dream of building something with, that you're on the sort of same page, it's really difficult. And also the whole cultural difference, right? I mean, it's very different to the American people. So the way we think is different, the things that we say is different, our food is, so it's all those things we need to like navigate. But the right person comes along and be happy.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Really, thank you so much for that. I think a lot of the trans girls, they don't believe in love. I'm someone who for a minute I didn't believe in love, But then it happened to me, and that's the whole conversation for another time. We're gonna do a series on love, and
Yeah, please, like a light-hearted conversation. Yeah,
yes,
Yes.
definitely.
like a
That's what we're
seedy hard
interested in.
stuff. Yeah.
Right, that's why I wanted us to end off on a like a lighter note, because I think we are also, carrying around so much heaviness on a daily basis. And I think, sometimes people just want to come and log into something where they can have fun and like kind of clock out of their daily lives, So thank you so much for that, sharing that. I hope people make it to this part specifically, And yeah, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this conversation. You are an icon. You are a legend. You are the
Yes.
moment. Thank you so much. You are.
Our Rangers, thank you so much for sticking with us until this point. We love you and we appreciate you. And also a huge, massive thank you to Rikki Nathanson. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for just taking the time out to talk to us. You are like, I think Jordan and I have been like fangirling throughout this call, but like you're literally like a legend and a queen and like everything. You're just amazing. And I wish you all the best and all of the amazing work that you're doing. I hope that more people come through to support, and I'm assured that so many people are going to definitely be inspired by everything that you are doing and everything that you've done already. And yes, guys, in the description, we're going to send you guys links of everything that Rikki's working on. If you want to follow her on social media, just so you can keep up with a lot of the stuff that she's doing, please make sure that you do that. Her information is either on the screen or in the description box below. But yes, thank you so much, Rikki. We love you and we appreciate you, and we wish you all the best and continue to shine. We need more people like you to shine so we can continue to be inspired to just exist and be amazing.
And thank you very much. Thank you for the conversation. It was one of the best I've done in a long time. So thank you very, very much.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Click, strike up, pose. Oh, swag, drippy, click, strike up, pose.
Clap for what up? He already paid her dues. Word. Clap for Wagon. He already paid her.